Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you for joining me. Tonight I am your astrologer. Welcome back to my channel. On Friday nights we do live readings. Tonight we are going to be looking at live charts and looking at transits and aspects in a natal chart. We alternate every Friday. One week we do tarot, one week we do astrology. So it is astrology this week. And before we even really get into it, I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to just show up. We do have a couple already readings that are in the queue. If you take a look at the chat box, there's a link to PayPal. So you can click that PayPal and you can get on the list. We are going to be answering questions in order of receiving purchases or donations for the time this evening. If you make a purchase or a donation for a reading, make sure you let me know your name in YouTube versus your name in PayPal, because sometimes it's different. Sometimes we have a QR code also that pops up here, so you can also scan that. You can take a look at that if you're watching on a computer and you quickly want to be able to get on the list for a reading. You can scan that code. I am stoked to be able to talk to you guys tonight. There is a lot of crazy astrology going on right now, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about what's happening, because this can be a great opportunity for people to ask some questions about their natal placements and transits that are happening to their natal placements, and I'll talk about the hot spots for the people that are getting hit the hardest. But before we get into it, I want to say a big thank you to all of my subscribers, everybody who's supporting Beyond the Veil. I appreciate you guys. It's awesome to be able to see just in a short couple of months time the channel really growing. I'm really stoked to be back on YouTube. You can take a look at my subscription levels. You can get it on level 1 and just support the channel if you like my videos that I'm doing weekly, if you're learning from these lives, and equally if you really enjoy my weekly astro weather talk. Level 2 is going to get a shout out from me, and level 3 is going to get you a shout out. You support the channel and you're going to get one reading once a month, whether it's tarot or astrology. You'll get one 3-card reading on a Friday evening when I do my lives, or you'll get one question about transits or something about your natal horoscope. So even if you don't donate, please do consider, make sure you like, comment, share, so I can get more of my videos into circulation on YouTube land. So let's go ahead and get into the thank yous for my level 2 and level 3 subscribers. Jen, Rich, Phoenix, Paula, Nancy, Jessica Martinez, Angeli, Sam, Emma, and Susan Wexler. You guys are superstars. Thank you guys so much for being able to support. If any of my level 3 people like Phoenix, Paula, Nancy, Jessica, Angeli, or Sam would like to get the monthly reading tonight, let me know. You will be first on my list. My VIPs, level 3, are the first ones who generally get questions answered. So just let me know if you guys want to cash in on that now. How's everybody doing tonight? How are you guys doing? The astrology is like, I'm a Libra rising, so I'm kind of over this Moon, Mars, Mercury stuff, you know? It's making me kind of sassy, so it's nice to be able to have an outlet tonight to be able to get some more work done, so I'm not burning somebody's house down. Let me know how it's going for you guys, how you guys are managing. How are you feeling with this this Mercury Mars Cazimi that's setting up? And I want to talk to you guys about this even before we get into the readings, because it's actually happening like tonight, really tomorrow, maybe even into Sunday. So by the time I do my astro weather, it will have already passed. If you haven't already checked out my astro weather for this last new moon that we had in Libra, make sure that you take a look and see what it's all about. You'll hear me talk a little bit about this conjunction that's building tomorrow. Hello everybody in the chat. Hey Nancy, hey Emma, hey Jenna. Hey, Glammed Up with Patricia. Nice to see everybody. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm super stoked to be able to chat with you. If you have a question, we will do single questions. You don't have to subscribe, so you can actually pay for the one reading, which is $40 for one question, or I'll do Synastry for $65. For me to look at your natal horoscope, I need the exact time, date, year, and location and city of where you were born. I really would prefer to have that information as accurate as possible. You can find this on your birth certificate. If you don't happen to have it, no worries. I'll be back here in 2 weeks' time, and we can give you enough time to be able to find that information, and then we can chat about it. So it's nice to see everybody. Hi Sharon, hey Lucas, what's going on? So just let me know if you guys make a purchase before we get started. I just have to ask. Thank you, Micah. Are there any level 3 people that would like me to do their reading before I get started? I've got Crystal in the queue, Jenna in the queue, now Mike is in the queue. So we've got 3 people that are already waiting. And as always, we really appreciate it. Even if you just really enjoy watching this and you want to give a donation through PayPal or through the Super Chat, it's always appreciated. It definitely goes towards production stuff, being able to afford setups, lighting, cameras, all that good stuff. Wine. We like wine on this channel. People have asked me, what can I send you? Send me a wine subscription. My birthday is coming up. All right, so I'm gonna wait just to make sure I don't hear anything back from any of these level 3 people. You guys let me know if you want to get in on the questions before I get started. I'm going to start with Crystal. I'm happy to look at lunar returns, solar returns, a progressed question, transits in a natal chart, aspects in a natal chart. You name it, I will answer it for you. So I just want to talk to you guys really quickly about this conjunction that's setting up in the skies right now. So essentially, I should probably even, I guess I can pull up the sky right now. Essentially, we have, this moon that's been in Scorpio. Venus is coming into conjunction with the South Node right now. It can feel a little prickly and a little uncomfortable. Thankfully, right now, the moon in Scorpio is moving into a square with Jupiter. So there's something to be learned through whatever we've been kind of pushing through the last 48 hours. Tomorrow, Venus is conjuncting with the South Node. So definitely dealing with a sense of releasing, letting go of maybe the need for too much freedom or the need to hold on to things too tightly. It's safe to say a lot of us are really reevaluating our relationship to love and finances. And themes that can come up right now are like holding on too tight. What I'm also noticing is that Mars is moving very closely with the sun. So those of you guys who are Libra suns, moons, and risings, you're probably feeling this quite a bit. The hot spots are anywhere between 14 and about 18 degrees of the cardinal placements, sun, moon, or rising. Tomorrow and into Sunday, we see Mercury is backtracking and it is becoming conjunct with the sun. So this is an important time. Mercury is kind of going through some of the degrees that it has already passed through. But when it cazimis with the sun, so Mercury is in the heart of the sun, there is important information that is coming back to us that we need to be aware of that's going to give us some enlightenment, the sun, and help us kind of deal with our relationships, our egos perhaps. And with all of these oppositions to Chiron and Aries, there's certainly a lot of dealing with wounds. So I want you to pay attention to what's happening this evening, clear into Sunday. Mars is going to also join the mix. So it's kind of burning up in a way. So Mars doesn't do so well in Libra. Traditionally this is a planet that's associated with Aries or maybe even Leo. And also the sun does not do so well in Libra because there's a lot of focusing on other people. So there's a real need to shift gears and really focus more so on our finding balance, being able to kind of like mediate, finding that middle ground, how we get along in relationships and partnerships. But equally, a huge theme for us is also going to be about how we find peace through conflict. And where sometimes conflict is necessary to kind of create that friction that we have with other people, to be able to kind of hash things out and kind of clear the air. So there's a lot of this going on right now. If you happen to have major Libra placement, it can be a good time for a question. If you are any of the cardinal signs, but I really feel like Aries and Libra are going to get hit the hardest, it may be a good time for you guys to be considering asking a question. Happy birthday, Sharon. Your birthday is tomorrow. Definitely a big one when you're having the Mars Mercury cazimi. So there is a lot that is going to be reevaluated in the next year ahead as a result of your relationships. Definitely a good time to consider getting a reading. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I can expand on that if people have questions, especially like I said, if you're feeling this in your own personal horoscope. I am happy to answer questions about that. I'm going to go ahead and get things kicked off with starting with looking at Crystal's information. All right, so she may or may not be on the live, so we'll see if she is. She did let me know ahead of time that she may not be there. July 6th, 1991. And that's at 4:33 p.m. And that is in Kingston, New York. All right, so here's Crystal's question. This past week has been stressful, mostly on Monday and Tuesdays. There's something in my chart that I'm going through that's causing this. I'm not sure if it's due to the Mercury retrograde, and when should things lighten up? The stress is mostly at work. Sure thing, Angeli. I will pull your chart up next, so just hang tight and I will look at your lunar return for you. All right, guys, so this is Crystal's chart. The planets that are on the inside are her natal. The planets on the outside are the transiting planets. So she's talking about the stress that's going on at work, okay? So for her, the work is going to be ruled by Virgo or Mercury, so it makes sense that her being in the midst of a Mercury retrograde, because that is a Mercury-ruled house, career 10th house, is creating some static. But why is she having issues? Well, she's seeing that her 10th house lord, Mercury, that's in Libra, is coming into some hard angles with both Pluto transiting her second house, and equally it's coming into some hard angles with the sun in the 8th. So like I said, the kind of the sweet spots that are getting hit the hardest are the cardinal signs anywhere between 14, 15, and 18 degrees. There's her sun at 14 degrees. There's her Neptune at 15 degrees. There's her north node at 18 degrees. So what we call this is actually a T-square, okay? So for Crystal, if you're listening, if you're coming back and you're listening to this video, the T-square that's happening is definitely bringing up themes revolving around how you're working with other people, how you're working with groups, how meetings are going, if things are going over well. I look at the second house and the 8th house kind of getting dinged, and it makes me wonder, are you in a situation right now where there's a lot of like group meetings, reviewing finances, budgeting, and there can be some aspects of sales or like just performance that may not necessarily be going over so well. Equally, it's a hard time to have quite a few personal placements in Leo, so you're kind of getting hit doubly with the Jupiter transit in opposition. That's really putting the pressure on you to like learn to communicate effectively and talk about your feelings and like really kind of like opening up more and finding ways to better communicate with people. So anybody who's listening, you guys have heard me talk about this on my channel in this last several weeks. I think the star of this Mercury retrograde is Jupiter, because we see that even though Mercury is going retrograde, it's making aspects to Jupiter in Aquarius. So in this case, all of the action in the 11th house, making trines to your 3rd house, is trying to get you to work collectively with groups, learning to kind of like listen more, or learning to be able to kind of get ahead of the curve and express yourself more efficiently. But it's kind of hard when you've got Mercury in a square right now with your sun and also your Neptune in your north node. An outlet equally can be like teamwork exercises, spending time with friends, having some kind of support system through friends, like blowing off steam that way. This is a chart that can't be like all work and no play. So I don't really feel like this is a negative transit. If anything, once Mercury comes into a trine with Jupiter, you're going to find that whatever you've been working through that's been kind of getting stuck in the mud, is going to clear out. So this clearing starts to kind of happen actually as early as maybe the 14th or the 15th of October, as the Sun and Mars come into a trine with Jupiter and you find a way through. But it's a lot of negotiating, talking to people, going through emails, having meetings, responding to text messages, having to just keep talking until you find a solution. Now there can be lots of errors also with documents. Emails that were sent that weren't thoroughly looked over, or people who are missing out on details and things like that, and how it actually affects you on a personal level because of the square to your sun, because of a group that you're working with. So there's some frustration in like not really knowing how to get everybody on the same page. I would say once Mercury goes direct, it's going to get a little bit easier. Once it starts coming into a trine with Jupiter, right around Halloween, so the 30th and the 31st, there may be new schedules, new gadgets, new software. There can be new ways of communicating with other people. I think of like, you know, new schedules, new digital apps and things at work where people are connecting better, people are checking in. Maybe you have set the intention to have more regular one-on-one meetings. If you work in the area of like any business involving like the internet or updating websites, communication, social media, things like that, that can also start to improve, really come about the beginning of November. So things will get easier, okay? But I'm going to keep reminding everybody that Jupiter in Aquarius is talking about the future, right? The vibrations of the future. So it's almost like 2021 is a dress rehearsal to get everything kind of in order and get everything ready to go. So once Saturn in Aquarius moves up in degrees in 2022 and it comes and it perfects this square, we have to have these things down pat. We have to be ready to go because Saturn says now is the time. So one thing I would tell you, Crystal, is that you are going to experience a situation where you are going to have Saturn come into a square with your planets in Leo. Obviously, I'm sure you know you're in the midst of your Saturn's return right now, which is in your third house, which is already about communication or how you're expressing yourself or how you're applying your information, how you're writing, texting, communicating, how you're learning, how you're driving, how you're getting around. It really depends on what Saturn rules in your chart. Technically, Saturn rules your third, but Capricorn is intercepted, so you can have a harder time with more Capricorn third house business stuff. So being able to communicate and get on well with some of the people at work and definitely be dealing with some constructive criticism. A word to the wise, I would advise you that it may be a good idea, perhaps, to get a reading before Saturn comes into a square with your Pluto and starts to oppose your natal Jupiter, because it's almost like the 9th, 3rd, and 12th house are going to be landlocked. And if you're not feeling more comfortable or confident with communicating, expressing yourself, it can be a little bit more frustrating. So might be a good idea to consider something like that. Look for things to be looking up as early as the beginning of November. And I would say look for the silver linings and ways that you can better connect and communicate with other people so you can get ahead of the curve. And you'll start to see it the 14th, the 15th, but especially come the beginning of November. Okay? Hopefully that was helpful. We're going to move on. We're going to take Angeli and Nancy. Thank you guys for being patient. Also, Nance, thank you. You are in the queue. So we've got a couple of people that are in the queue. I'm going to take Angeli and Nancy, and then I'm going to get to, let's see, Jenna and then Nancy. So just hang tight for me for a little bit. So let's go ahead and look at Angeli's lunar return chart. Angeli, I feel like this is a monthly thing for us at this point. March 17th, 87. How did your last lunar return play out since the last time we spoke? Because I think the last 2 times we've talked about it, it's been pretty bang on. And all right, so we're going to look at your lunar return, and that's going to be Miami. My natal houses are so similar to this lunar return. That's an interesting one then. So you want to look at the one for the 7th that you just had, I assume. Or the 6th, excuse me. So it looks like it was like a day and a half ago. All right, so we've got here October 6th, 2021. So this is Angeli's lunar return. Lots of people asking to hang out. All right, so this is an interesting lunar return here. The star of the show is Mercury, okay? So pay attention to what's happening, because as the Sun, Mars, and Mercury were coming into conjunction in Libra day before yesterday with the moon, it's all highlighting your 5th house. So when we have a Gemini rising in a lunar return chart, we're going to look at the chart ruler. Equally, we're going to look at the moon, right? Because it's a lunar return. So off the bat, the moon's in the 5th house. It's dramatic, it's playful, it's romantic, it's partnership oriented because it's Libra, it's dating, it's sexy, all of that fun stuff is going on. Equally, we see some stuff that's going on. Oh, you're in Chicago now. Are you going to be there for the month? Oh, you were born in Miami, you're in Chicago now. Okay, I was like, wait a second. Dyslexic much? Thank you for catching that. Thought it was the other way around. All right, so let's plug this in. So you're in Chicago. That conjunction's still happening. It's in a different time zone, so it's going to be in a different part of your chart. So there we go. Okay, still Gemini rising. It does bump the moon into the 6th. But we're still going to look at Mercury. So in this case, Mercury is conjunct the sun. So there's this conversation about emotions, relationships, partnerships that are going on, something that's going on, you know, in connection specifically to partnerships and timing and scheduling. So when we look at the moon, Mercury in the 6th, it's a lot of like, okay, I've got a lot of like work obligations. There's a lot of clients that I need to tend to. There's a lot of people that I need to be taking care of, right? The moon is also the ruler of your 3rd in this chart. So it can tell me like there's a lot of you like having to structure and schedule your time in a way where, you know, you're getting as much work done in the day-to-day as possible. There can be some kind of tweaking or updating going on also to your health or your schedule or your dietary stuff. There can be a lot more focused in learning more about health and balance and finding that balance. But Moon Mercury generally, to me, especially in Libra, is just an indication of just constantly having to adjust your schedule, maybe because you're dealing with people in different places, or maybe you're dealing with people who might be on different time frames, or they like might be in different time zones. So be mindful that, you know, you can have days where you're like maybe having to get up earlier, so you have to adjust your eating schedule or your fitness schedule or what have you, because you're, you know, talking to clients or whatever that might be in a different part of the world or a different part of the country. So then it's going to affect your sixth house. But you have this stellium of planets, the sun, Mars, Mercury, the moon, all of these placements that are all conjunct. What is your lunar return? Taurus at 13 degrees. I don't know. That's not what I have. Let's see. It's got the right time zone, right? Yeah, I've got the right time zone. Are you using Placidus? 14 degrees. I have a different lunar return on my app. Yeah, this is the right information. Let me just double check it on another software. Give me 1 second. Just to double check. Let's see. Let me plug this in. Give me 1 second here. Find your info. Here we go. So March 17th, 1987, 9:53 a.m. Chicago, Illinois. Okay. So we've got you here. Lunar return. Lunar, and this is in Miami. Chicago. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, it's coming up the same in both, actually. I don't know why it's doing that. That's really weird. Maybe it's that there's a different housing system that you're using. I don't know. let's see, August 6, 2021. So weird. Yeah. I'm gonna turn it around a little bit. Give me 1 second. So 13 degrees. Oh, now it's working. Okay, I don't know, maybe it's the software. 13 degrees Taurus rising, moon at 21 degrees. So still, you've got Venus as the chart ruler, Venus conjunct the South Node in the 7th. There can definitely be a lot of turnover in clients happening this month. I would show this to you, but it's not coming up on this software for some reason. But 13 degrees, Taurus rising. You've got your lunar return, which is always coming back to the same place. So that's going to be the moon in the 6th. And you've got Sun, Mars, Mercury, and the moon all located in the 6th. So schedule all month long. Trying to stay in balance. There can also be just like a massive clearing out that's going on. If you think about how this impacts your natal horoscope, you had mentioned that it's like kind of similar to what you've got going on, but all of that stellium of planets in the 6th house fall in your natal 5th. So it's also about making time for other people. So you had mentioned that in like this last lunar return, there was stuff going on where like a lot of people were calling you and like wanting to hang out. That's going to keep happening, and there can definitely be some hurt feelings if there are some people who feel like they've been blown off. So I would just watch out for that. Equally, we're looking at Pluto on the midheaven in this chart. So with all these planets in Libra in the 6th and a square to Pluto, there can be some sense of you kind of being like, well, sorry, like if people don't, understand, or people don't take it, if they take it too much the wrong way, that you're not making time for them, there can be some huge turnover in personal relationships and some clearing out going on with partnerships who are like, why don't you have time for me? You're not making time for me, like blah, blah, blah. Don't lose sight of the fact that the moon is in the trine to Jupiter in your 11th house. And so I think with the moon in that trine, it does kind of talk a little bit about organizing things and like working around other people. And I would say watch for changes in your diet, watch the sugar intake, watch anything that has to do with like your lower back. There can be some like back pains or some like nerve burnout or something that's going on with Sun and Mars burning up with Mercury. And the moon is close to that conjunction ruler of the 4th. So this is also like focusing on cleaning, organizing, keeping your space clean, keeping your space up. If you feel like your schedule's all over the place and you're just working all of the time, it's about kind of getting ahead of things and staying on track with like keeping your space in order. So if you feel like you need to have, people come over, things are already kind of neat and orderly. Equally, this can be about you like hiring people to help you do things. If it's like a dog that needs walked, if you need to hire somebody to help you keep up the house, if you need to hire somebody to come in and like wrap up the loose ends and help get work done and things that you can't get done, like busy work, there's something like that going on for you. I'm doing so much now and relying on my calendar for reminders. Yeah. I realize that it's hard for others, but I've barely had time for myself. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is the 6th house is 12 houses from your 7th. So it's almost in a way through the busyness of your schedule, really trying to keep you on track and reminding you that, real relationships, friendships, whatever, will understand if you're not able to constantly be available for other people. Remember that part of this new moon is kind of in hard angle and it's trying to reconcile with Uranus. So I really would just advise you to be mindful where there can be too much accommodating other people, like too much being able to, think of other people before yourself, and the actual effect, the stress that has on you or on your eating habits or on your health habits, your digestion can be something that's going on. Yeah, I can see Libra is always associated with sweetness. So because all of these planets that are ruled by Libra are ruled by Venus, and it's in its detriment at 29 degrees, it's saying clear out relationships or tendencies or where you feel pressured to kind of bypass your normal healthy schedule just to facilitate other people. So there's a need to really focus on that. Besides that, I think you're probably also going to see something that's going to come up where when the Sun and Mars starts to come into the square with Pluto, you're going to finally cut bad habits or bad scheduling habits, or you're going to like really wipe things out. So I'm not entirely sure exactly when that happens, but that is going to be something that's going to happen. The Sun Mars square is when you finally kind of like see something. So that'll be like October 16th through the 22nd. Don't be mindful of when you're like, that's it, no more sugar, no more Sundays, I'm making my bed every morning, I'm committing to working out 30 minutes a day. There's going to be stuff like that that's going to start happening. And you're going to have people who are going to start pushing you, like combining things where maybe you have friends that equally also are really busy and you can do some like co-working stuff. You could do that together. You can have lunch together on a lunch break. You may find that it makes more sense for you also to be able to be like, look, I can't see everybody individually. Can we just all go out and have lunch together? These kinds of things, like kind of connecting the 6th house of your routine with Jupiter in your 11th house of friendships. So just trying to make the most of your schedule, but learning not to stress yourself out trying to appease everybody else. Watch that sugar. Watch your nervous system too, because you know, Uranus on the ascendant in this chart in the hard angles to the 6th house is like really reminding you that if you're running around crazy 24/7, bending over backwards for other people, it really puts stress on your nervous system. It's the day of the dead tax line. Let me tell you something. There's definitely going to be a lot of people that are really scrambling and realizing that they're trying to get things in suddenly and when they can't, and you're like, sorry, I don't have time. They may not be so thrilled, but there's not really a lot you can do about that. I should be able to immediately relax after the deadline. Let's hope so. The astrology does in a way get a little bit more intense as the fall goes on. So once we get into November, certainly those who didn't file or whatever, they're really going to be aware of the implications once the sun and other planets go into Scorpio, because there's going to be a square to Saturn and an opposition to Uranus. So people are going to freak out. Get as many people in as you can, but not at the detriment of your health or your well-being. That's my advice. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Micah will be with you in just a second. Don't worry. I just got to take care of my level 3 people. Nancy. Welcome back, Nancy. Thank you for joining us. So it looks like we got Angeli, Nancy. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at your chart. 9/5/83. And that was at 7:45 in Houston, Texas. 7:45 p.m. Okay, so your question is what to expect from the registration process for level 5 culinary lab. I'm having issues with the academic administration. You're very welcome, Angeli. All right, so let's take a look and let's see what this says for Nancy. What to expect with registration process for culinary lab. So is this going to be, I assume you talk about registration like starting a new course, like you're getting ready to take a new class, anything of that nature? I guess the good news is that you do have Jupiter moving into your 9th house, which has to do with like higher knowledge, higher learning. So it's going to be positive in that sense. And it is coming into a conjunction with both Jupiter, the ruler of the 10th house of career, and Uranus, which is the ruler of your 12th house. So it does seem to me like there can be some sense of like, I got to get this taken care of. I don't know if I'm going to get the class. Am I going to be able to make it work? Is it going to be full? Like, am I going to be able to get the credits or get this class so I can graduate on time? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Let me know. But in theory, you know, Venus coming into conjunction with your 10th house Lord is good. With your 5th house Lord, it makes me wonder what's happening even over the weekend, if there's going to be some changes with some administrative stuff or people who are actually signing up for the course, and then you actually come into some good news perhaps. Once Venus comes into a trine maybe with Mars and your natal Venus, because Mars does rule education for you. So it might be a little bit of like is it going to work? But I think that you're going to find that once Venus gets away from the South Node conjunction, it starts to come into a trine with Mars. You're feeling a little bit more confident about the whole process of everything. Right around maybe the 19th of October is kind of what it's looking like. Especially when Venus starts coming into a sextile with Jupiter. Time crunch, yeah. I mean, you know, as the South Node is crossing, today and tomorrow, it almost makes me feel like there's a possibility that the hold is going to break, but it's because somebody else bails and you actually find out, you know, early in the week, like, okay, like we might be able to process documents or get things ready to go so you can actually do this. And I'm hoping it's before Venus comes into a square with Neptune. And that is going to be right around the 26th. So yes, you really want to work with the trines, I think, to Mars. That's when the best stuff is going to kind of come of this chart. So you're looking at like right around here. 18th, 19th, and 20th are going to be your best days to be following up with people, especially like, you know, anybody who's in the academic department. If you have to talk to a counselor, if you have to talk with somebody who's going to get you in, if you need to get a teacher that's going to sign off on something like that seems like it might unlock and it might open. I also say this because I'm watching Venus come into and in conjunct with Uranus. So it's basically like you literally do need to know at some point by the end of October so you know what to plan on and whether or not you're going to be able to like actually finish this stuff up. I do see you back in school if you're not already, or like taking courses during Sag season, because you do have a number of planets that are coming into your 10th house that are going to be activated by where that eclipse was in June. So it really wants to get you back into school at some point between November and mid-December. When are these courses supposed to start? Let me know. I also think that just with Venus square your sun, there just seems to be a lot of like juggling things. So I'm not entirely sure when your classes start or not, but there's a lot of juggling things that's going to be going on for you. And I would just say really, really, really pay attention. Even with Jupiter in opposition to your Venus, I mean, it's a clear indication that you are going to be able to be taking courses and classes, but it may be dependent on some kind of document or somebody signing off on something. And you should be well on your way to either getting the okay or actually starting at some point by, you know, November. This Monday. Okay, so Monday, let's look at today. And that's when the documents are due, or that's when the courses start? So today's Friday, 9th, 10th, 11th, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Back terms every 10 weeks. Okay. I mean, the fact that Venus will have already crossed your natal Uranus, I think is a really good indication that something's going to come through. But it's interesting because you say 10 weeks, but I'm looking at something else that's going to come up for you in December. So are you planning on taking courses again or signing up for something else again in December? Worst case scenario if it doesn't, although I do think it will. There's enough sextiles to Saturn, but worst case scenario if it doesn't, the astrology looks very active for you in Sag season for courses and classes, especially right here. Okay, so but it's going to go for 8 weeks or 10 weeks, excuse me. So that's basically bringing you to about mid-December. So I don't know if you're planning on taking a break or what the deal is, but there's something else that's going to pop up that it's going to be quite a handful of stuff that you're dealing with in December. So just be mindful of that. But yeah, considering that you have the conjunctions, I think it's going to be fine. I mean, that's really like a horary question, to be honest with you. But to me, it does seem like that's going to happen, especially when Mars gets into your 9th house. And it will be there, but not till December. There's a break in December. Well, do you sign up for courses in between? Because something's trying to get you to sign up when Mars comes into a conjunction with Jupiter and Uranus. So be mindful that you're either looking at classes or looking at other courses, or you're preparing to get ready to take something else. But that to me seems more important than what's actually coming up in your chart in the next week. Like it seems like those are going to be some like real either pivotal classes or something that you're really going to have to choose and decide, because these planets are coming into the same degrees as the eclipses. So just be mindful of that. You have to let me know. Come back, leave me a comment. Let me know what happens. But communication. With everything that's going on in the skies right now, there's a real need to really lean on the Mercury-Jupiter conjunction. We can talk about that too. I mean, you've got Mercury, Jupiter, and Mars that are all aligning in your 7th house, right? and it's in a trine to Jupiter, your 12th. So it's all about who you're talking to, who you know. Okay. Yeah, your terms in the new year are going to be really busy. But if we're really looking at the conjunction that's going to be happening like now through the 11th, Mercury, Mars, and the Sun. So you've got your 9th house ruler, you've got your ruler of the 6th house, and you've got Mercury retrograde Cazimi. So it looks to me like there's some phone call that you need to make back. There's some document that's going to need to be looked at. There's going to be some signature or some okay where somebody releases something and they actually let you either get into the class or they let you go. So it's very important that you're following up with some of this stuff. Okay? Hopefully that works out. Looks positive, to be honest with you, especially with the trines. More interested in what you're going to take in January. Those look a little more intimidating. You'll have to let me know. All right. So that was all of my level 3. I'm going to swing back over to Micah. Thank you guys for those of you guys who are waiting. I appreciate it. I will be back with Jenna and the other Nancy in just a second. So let's take a look at Micah's question. Here we go. 31092. And that's at 3:35 a.m. St. Louis, Missouri. $310.92. I'm so confused about where I'm heading with my career. I thought I knew, but now I'm not so sure. Is that I love to teach and I'm good at that, but I want to teach so many things. I want to see if you're indicating any general field of work. I've literally been getting certified in everything from pole fitness to aromatherapy. Good job, Nancy. Keep going. You got to keep going because that stuff is going to be the big stuff. All right, Micah, let's talk. Mercury, you know, it's an interesting transit that you're going through right now. Because to me, it seems as if like maybe a lot of this is stemming from, on one hand, I say Mercury because Chiron's on your Mercury, so it's a lot of like, how do I want to make money? What do I want to do for a living, right? Mercury rules your 6th house of where you work, and the 8th house is of transformation. So I think I would really look deeper into Chiron kind of hanging out on your Mercury and trying to figure out how you can make money in a way that feels like really personal and very authentic, okay? Career we look at in a couple of ways. One, it's the ruler of your 10th house, which would be either Pluto or Mars. And here we have Saturn coming up on your Mars. So the good news is that the future looks bright, I think, when Saturn collides with your Mars for the final time in the new year, especially like anything that deals with working with your body, transforming your body, you know, the connection to the body, and also transformation. That's very Saturn Mars, right? Strict routine also comes up with that. Mars also rules your 3rd, so it makes sense like you want to talk to people, you want to communicate, you want to share, you want to teach. Usually I see like a very, very, very strong 9th house Lord if you want to be a teacher or a guru. You do have that. You have Venus in your 1st house strongly connected to Mars. So to me, it seems almost like the process of having to go through the transformation of yourself before you really break through and you start sharing this with the world. I want to remind you also you're in the midst of your Saturn return. So in a way, you know, some people say your Saturn return doesn't end until you're 30. I don't really agree with that. I feel like when it gets within 10 degrees away from your natal Saturn, it starts to calm down. And when Saturn actually leaves the house where your natal Saturn is in, that's when you actually start to really kind of experience the fruit of everything. So here's the good news, right? A lot of what your chart talks about, at least right now, is like really getting you into a sense of feeling comfortable being you, being cool in your own skin, being able to really be comfortable and cool with your body, and like really showing that you can do the work. So a lot of it is consistency. If you want to be able to do that type of work where you're working with your body specifically and doing pole, you just keep coming back to that. You have to keep coming back. You like aromatherapy because you're a second house sun, and your sun is in a degree that is associated with Scorpio. So it's about healing, transformation, changing. And your sun does make some very nice aspects to planets that you have in Capricorn. So it's almost like this may be a combination of you starting to integrate both, right? But really Mars and Pluto are the star of the show. And if you look at your natal chart, just the chart, you've got Mars in friction because it's conjunct Saturn, your chart ruler, and also you've got Venus in a square to Pluto. So it talks about as soon as Saturn crosses your Venus, right? Venus ruler of the 4th, and Venus also rules the 9th. You might take something to the next level is kind of the feeling that I'm getting with your education, and like really kind of sticking to one thing and like sticking it out. Anybody who's got a Scorpio midheaven or who's got Pluto in the 10th house, they need some aspect of transformation, working with their intuition, research, power. And what's so beautiful about your chart is that you have Pluto in a trine to your sun, right? So certainly it's kind of saying like you can blend the two things together, but I feel like you have to really strongly commit to being consistent with the body work for the next year and continuing to keep working on the pole fitness and the instruction or the aerial stuff, whatever it is that you're doing, stick with that first. You have an opportunity to go deeper into blending, mixing, aromatherapy, Bach essences, floral healings, herbal stuff, all of that stuff next year when Jupiter comes into conjunction with your sun. But because in your chart, Leo is intercepted, it's going to be harder for you, and it makes me feel like you need the funding behind that. You would need the money to be able to back products, which seems like it's going to actually stem more from you like teaching classes relating to the body work. It's so funny about the degrees of my sun, especially since Neptune is sitting on my sun right now. I just bought a mermaid tail to transform into a mermaid. I mean, and I'm not saying that because you're a Pisces. I think what's going on is because Neptune is the ruler of your second house, and you're going through that Neptune transit. You're almost done. Like right now, Neptune is going retrograde over your sun. It's telling me that it's more kind of like, where is my money going? How am I spending it? You know, how can I be more creative with my process? Like, how can I do something creative to be able to kind of fund the second house? Remember that second house sun people have a tendency to act like Tauruses, and they base a lot of who they are off of what they have, right? And so I want you to think about the sun in Pisces is the spiritual knowledge, the understanding, the transformation. Also, it's like your self-esteem, your goals, your talents. So there is a possibility when Jupiter crosses your sun next year, and it comes into some positive aspects with your ascendant, that because of the money and the funds and the things that you're raising essentially from clients or maybe teaching the body work, you're generating more money that you can put into like being able to start doing the blending and creating of things. Liquids is great, especially while Neptune is on your sun. You may even get into like, I would really recommend looking into Bach essences. Like aromatherapy is awesome when you have a lot of planets in the second house, but I feel like because you're a Pisces, Bach essences and working with flower drops or working with anything that's going to be like creating, tonics and like different like liquids and like even like teas and other things, like that could be something else that you could create and you can blend. I love that you've got that Taurus moon in the 4th because it's sextiling. So it's basically saying like it's the setup once Jupiter hits your sun to start getting you working more with like herbal things or floral things, and also learning about how things grow. So really understanding the harvesting aspect if you're going to be creating like products is kind of the main thing that I see. But I will tell you that no matter how much advice I give you of what you're really good at and what you could do, this is kind of like the blessing and the curse of those of you guys who have heavy planetary placements in Capricorn. There's always like this focus on the end goal, right? There's a lot of like old souls with those placements. Your chart matures over time. You've got a heavy Saturn placement, a lot of first house placements of the body and the self, and getting the body ready and focusing on your own independence. But I look at, you know, the South Node coming into Scorpio, and it's going to conjunct your Pluto, right? So there's a huge transformation of your career and the identity revolving around your career taking place in March. And you're still going to be in this whole, do I do this or do I do that thing? And when the North Node is on your moon, the South Node is on your Pluto, and it all squares Saturn, there are huge fireworks taking place in your life in March, April, May, where your body is different, you're moving through life differently, you're expressing yourself differently, you're detaching from this idea that you are what you do out in the world, you're focusing more on the earth, grounding, home, family, stability. And so really lean on those second and fourth house placements is really what I would recommend. Definitely, like, this would be a year that I would get a solar return reading, because if you look at the T-square, it's just going to be mind-boggling all year round. May even be better to do it like sooner. Like, I would get a solar return reading in February, so you know what to expect March, April, May. And the same thing would go for anybody, you know, if you've got any real heavy planetary hitters like Saturn or Pluto or a sun or a moon or a rising, that are those middle degrees. You know, that are going to be kind of dinged by Saturn and Aquarius, or even the nodes. Pay close attention. It's also an eclipse coming on your moon, ruler of the 7th house. So that eclipse that's coming mid-November is the setup for new potential relationships and kind of figuring out more of where you want to live. So think about the life that you want to create and what feels like home and what's comfortable and what you're cultivating emotionally and what brings you emotional security, or how you're able to start doing work that ties into the home. Overwhelming news about my health lately, so hopefully it gets better next year since it's so much about body work. Yeah, I mean, there's just, it's an ungodly amount of transits that you're going through. I guess probably the most positive thing is the fact that you'll be coming out of your Saturn return, and I would not fear Saturn conjunctions. Saturn conjunctions can feel like a lot of heavy lifting, but I really want you to take care of your physical body. It's really important for you to be focusing on how you're feeling in your body. Yoga can be helpful, stretching. Aquarius is all about the nerves, so even looking into cell salts and things that can really support that transformation of what you're going through. Hopefully that is helpful for you, Micah. Let me know. I'm excited to see what happens for you. Thank you, Jenna. So let's take a look at your question. We've got another Tucson native in the house. I always get happy when I see that. 11/5/85. And that's at 2:30 p.m. All right, so let's take a look at that. We're going to call last call here pretty soon, guys. So if you want to get your readings, get them in now. Check out the link in the chat. Okay, so what should I be focusing on during this transit? Excuse me. Clarifying, struggling on what to focus on right now. Lots of opportunities showing up. What do you see coming down the pipeline? What should I be doing to prep? Thank you. Well, we got Pisces rising. When you say what you should be focusing on, are you talking about just like where my eyes go to? You're in exciting times, girl. Uranus is in opposition to your sun. What is that like? Please tell me. I would like to know. I guess the big thing is that when I look at your chart, Uranus is coming back for another opposition. So Uranus is the 12th house, which is like unforeseen things changing, how things are changing in terms of how you look about money and resources, what you have and what you're holding on to. There can be like lots of like epiphanies, and life can be like really exciting and quite eventful, to say the least. Your sun's in the 8th house, so it's a lot of also change and transformation about what you look at in terms of security, not just money, but psychological security, materialism, things of that nature. So that seems a little unusual. And this Uranus square is in opposition to your sun, and it's in a square to your moon. Holy cow. So there's just a lot of like changes in potentially what you're doing for your career. You know, I look at that moon in the 6th house as like maybe you really enjoyed acting and maybe that was something you like to do a lot. And now that Uranus is squaring your moon, you're realizing you want to be creative in different ways, right? Now that the eclipses are coming into Scorpio, I think the big thing that I would really watch for is that there is an eclipse that's going to be around November 19th at 26 or 27 degrees of Taurus. So that is going to be in your 3rd house, ruled by Venus. It will oppose your Saturn. Saturn is the ruler of your 11th. So your goals are changing, how you're communicating is changing. You might find yourself writing more or communicating differently, learning something new. Certainly you're also coming into your nodal return. I don't know if you know what that is, but this is something that happens about every 18 or 19 years. So you're going to see the South Node that's going to conjunct your Saturn. So it's going to clear out old friendships and old outdated views of your goals. And you might actually make friends with people in other places. Then the South Node is going to come for your Sun. It'll sit underneath your Sun, and that can trigger lots of stuff pertaining to your diet, your health, your energy, your vitality. I think it's easier to deal with the South Node transit than it is to deal with the North Node transit. So having the South Node on your Sun, being the ruler of your 6th, is like you might go through some huge transformation in like how you integrate creativity in your day-to-day. You might go through more detoxes and health purges and clearings of that nature. And then last but not least, you're going to have your nodal return. And your nodal return is an interesting one because this is kind of like a hard course correction with fate and your destiny. So that's happening more for you at the beginning of 2023, but shortly after it will also conjunct your Pluto. So you can't see it quite as well looking at this chart, but pretty much your, Venus, Pluto, South Node, Sun all sit in the 8th house between Libra and also Scorpio. So what you're clearing out is like this feeling that you need to rely on other people, that it's hard to make money, that you're not going to get out of debt, that you're not going to make enough. There's like a lot of like working through issues pertaining to like actual security and stability. And I'm going to remind you that when you're following your North Node, which is ruled by Venus, thankfully, both Saturn and your 12th is trining Venus. So there's new opportunities to take new courses, learn things new, change your philosophy, change your belief system. Saturn and the South Node coming together, I feel like is going to be a clearing where you're more conscious of the friends and the people that you have around you socially and the networking that you're doing. Right now, you've got Pluto in a square to your Venus, which is some heavy stuff because you're having to kind of almost like remove people from your life that aren't on the same path of success that you are. So just be mindful that that can be some heavy stuff that comes up a lot for you this month while there is a Mercury retrograde, and that's going to come up a lot for you in December. So staying focused with your goals is the one thing that I would recommend, and I would really recommend looking into your nodal return. So the North Node to North Node, the South Node to South Node, because it's switching things up and kind of getting you to a point where you're actually feeling like a little bit more financially successful and not like you have to rely on other people to come through. There's a lot of like focusing on like making your own money and like bringing more to you. It's a lot to unpack there, but I would start with that and go and learn about Jupiter transit your ascendant. I think that's like the silver lining in all of this, that even in the midst of everything that's going on for you in the new year, Jupiter will sit on your ascendant and it's going to keep you more optimistic and kind of like excited and open-minded. For many Scorpios, it's going to make their work schedule and their health and everything next year a lot easier. But for you, it pertains a lot to like how you choose to work and what you're choosing to participate in work and what brings you happiness or what brings you joy. Just with a Jupiter transit, just be mindful. For Scorpios, that is their 5th house. So it does deal with happiness, dating, love, romance, but can also be like pregnancy transits. So usually if I see Jupiter go through the 5th house, for Scorpios next year, be mindful, but also Jupiter on the ascendant. So you're getting bigger. So you want to like grow more. There needs to be more travel, or there needs to be more knowledge, more courses. You're learning more, perfecting your trades. But if you're not doing those things, a Jupiter transit on your ascendant or a Jupiter trine sometimes to your sun, it definitely can be gaining weight. So that's the one thing you want to watch for, is that Jupiter, it wants to have all the goodies, right? So just be mindful of that. Meditation and all that stuff can be really helpful for you in kind of bringing your visions and your ideas to reality. So if you want to have like a more peaceful day-to-day with kind of your schedule, it really starts with you. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. We've also got Nancy that's in the queue. I know I saw her info up here somewhere. Let me see if I can find you. Nancy, Nancy, Nancy. Nancy, just remind me, give me your info because I do not see it. Nancy Garcia. It just says, question, thank you. Trying to find you here. Nance, there we go. 3471 Huntington Park. I want to know if there's a certain direction I should be looking towards. I'm curious of what the chart says. In any particular area of your life? 3471. 8:46 p.m. And that's going to be Huntington Park, California. Any certain direction I should be looking towards? I kind of know. I'm just curious what the trip says. Career relationship. Gotcha. All right, Nance, let's take a look. Libra rising. Definitely a lot of like, there's a lot of holding back before you make a decision right now, right? So like if you look at what's going on in your chart, Mars, Mercury, the sun is all hanging out, kind of chilling in your 12th house. And it tells me that this is almost like a slingshot where energies are being pulled back and you're getting ready to make a decision and you're going to like release something and like let something go. So let's talk about career first. Career is more so your moon. Mercury, Sun, Mars, all coming into a trine with your moon is realizing on one hand, there's only one of you. There's only so much that you can do. Your mental health, your rest, your recuperation, like all of that stuff, finding that balance as a Libra rising right now is really, really, really important. I feel like executing some of your goals and communicating and coming out with what it is that you're going to start doing, like really, really, really is going to start for you right around mid-month. So about the 17th through the 26th, as you see Mars coming into a trine with your moon, you're like, this is what I want to do. This is the path. Watch for the assertiveness because the assertiveness is going to be really strong. You have a full moon that's setting up in your 7th house, which means it's going to be a make or break situation in a relationship. So kind of segueing to relationships, this full moon that's going to happen here is in your 7th house of partners, right? It opposes your sun on the ascendant, which is your goals, what you want to create, what you want to have come together, and it's going to square Pluto. So I'm wondering, have you hit a wall emotionally with a particular romantic relationship? Are you in a situation where you're like kind of giving somebody an ultimatum and being like, we're either doing this and moving forward or we're done. We need to physically move or this isn't going to work. We need to clear out the past or this isn't going to work. Equally, with a chart like this, you want to watch for conflicts either with family or people who you're living with. That can also bring up some friction because I look at that square to Pluto and my eyes get really big. Like I want you to take a red Sharpie and circle basically the 19th through like, let's say the 22nd of October on your calendar and just be really mindful that these are going to be pretty explosive days. Whenever we see planets moving through Libra and coming into a square with Pluto, it's going to deal with like whether or not emotionally you're at your wit's end and like how you're releasing that energy. So staying active, moving around, all of that stuff is going to be really important during these days. I've seen Libra risings who have charts like this that are like finally deciding to pick up and move and relocate, that they're ending relationships, that they're selling houses, that they're letting people go. But kind of how I started the beginning of this reading when I was talking to you guys about, the energies that are building the next 48 hours, that friction sometimes is necessary in relationships in order to kind of give us the incentive to clear the air. So all of these squares to Pluto wants us to cut, sever, and like release and let go of things. So there's some emotional release. There can be clearing out of your house, cutting off family members, having it out with, romantic or business partners. But certainly whatever needs to happen is going to really start to kind of like not blow up, but it's going to intensify. Thankfully, you have the Sun and Mars in a trine to your moon. So you're like, I know this is where I got to go. This is the bigger picture. This is what's best for me, so on and so forth. So because the moon rules your 10th house, you're becoming more assertive. You're more aware of your goals. You're able to get things done. Your energy is going to come back more. But it tells me that it's almost like if there's been a lot of emotional strife, stuff going on with the family, relationship stuff that's stressing you out, that needs to be cleared out so you can, be able to kind of create the change that you need to be able to create the change in your career stuff, if that makes sense. You do have Saturn that's going to be in a trine to your moon for like the next, year and a half. Equally, Jupiter's coming into a trine with your moon too. So when in doubt, choose happiness, choose joy. That's a huge theme for Libra risings right now. That's a really big theme for you being a 5th house Pisces sun. I watch Mercury, it's about to be conjunct with Jupiter in the new year and your sun. So it's like, do you need to focus on writing more? Is there some courses or classes you can take? Or do you need to pick up a new book or something that's about happiness and being able to create more time for your creative stuff? All of these things are like huge focuses for you in the next year. As Jupiter crosses your Mercury and your sun, you want to talk more about happiness and joy and love and romance, or children, having healthier relationships in that sense, or feeling like you can have more romance in your life. So usually when there's a clearing like this that happens, there's like, a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And while there is a very intense period that's building over the next month, there's another one that's going to be going on for you. And that's about December 20th through the beginning of February. That's going to be because you're going to have Venus, your chart ruler, go retrograde with Pluto. And to me, it seems like the bigger clearing out process, or the emotional family kind of severance, is probably going to come the end of January, beginning of February, and things get a whole lot easier for you about February on. So the closer that you get to your birthday, the easier this is going to get. So just opting to basically not fight fire with fire and being more focused on happier, healthier relationships and being more positive, and having a hobby or an outlet or something that you can do creatively. So that way you're clearing all this stuff out. So it's going to come in waves, but this is the first phase. And for a Libra rising, I know you don't want conflict, I know you don't want drama, right? But I would say like it's almost better to clear this out now rather than having some of the blow-ups that may potentially come around the holidays. Just a word to the wise. From one Libra rising to another who's also been dealing with some of the same stuff. I think it's probably good that you clear it out. Your moon and your Mars have been heavily affected also by the eclipses. So part of what's happening is that you're going to start feeling the effects of the eclipses coming back now that planets are coming into Sag, where you have Mars in your 3rd house, which is where you go, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm not. So you're going to become even more kind of at your wit's end as you get closer to the end of 2021. So it's almost better to try to kind of hash all of this stuff out now. Just a recommendation. Hopefully that was helpful, and definitely, Nance, if you need a reading in December or January, it might be a good time to get one, just so you can kind of figure out what else needs to be wrapped up. But the more that you're focusing on your career stuff, the better. And hopefully that was helpful for you. I'm wondering who needs to kind of move out of your emotional space or out of your physical home. There's some changes that are going on there. All right. Let's take a look. Marianne, you would be the last person of the night. You would just need to purchase a reading through the PayPal link. Let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a wrap here pretty soon. We're just answering one questions about the transits. So it would be about a particular question relating to the chart. Otherwise, those of you guys who are into this, you resonate with my reading style, excuse me, check out my links below. You can check out my social media and my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I've got some openings, not a lot. There's some openings in November. There's some openings in December. This is the busiest time of the year. It's like September through January is insane. So if you're having a birthday, you want to get a reading, you want to gift a reading, I have gift certificates also available. You can send me an email on the website and we can get you set up for a reading if that's something that you would like to do. My sessions are a combination of tarot, astrology, and what I see clairvoyantly. I am a trained Western and evolutionary astrologer. No worries, Mary Ann. I'm sure we'll catch you back next time. I will be back here on Monday. Going to be chatting with you guys about some of the aftermath of the transits that have been going on, all the sweet spots and everything that's going to be happening for the next week to get you guys prepared. While we're in between lunations, we're kind of coming out of a new moon, building into what's going to be a very intense full moon in about, I think, 10 days to 2 weeks time. I'm not exactly sure the day. I think it's, what is it, the 18th or the 19th? So this is the sweet spot in between. You can catch me for my astro weather on Monday mornings on my channel. If you guys haven't already liked or subscribed, please do so by clicking the bell button. You can know when I get these video updates. And when I work on other videos, that's part of you guys being able to support the channel, is I can create more content for you. Leave me a message below. Let me know if you have any questions or any content ideas. I'm happy to help. Equally, if you'd like to subscribe, I appreciate it. We'll be back next week. We're gonna be doing live tarot readings on Friday evening, so stay tuned for that. That is going to be next week. And if you haven't already checked out the podcast that I do weekly, the Midheaven podcast with the Peace Dealer, check it out. There's a whole episode that's out now. If you search the Midheaven podcast on YouTube, that's all about this Mercury retrograde in Libra and all of the predictions. And I also have a monthly video that's out for the whole month of October that I talk about predictions for each and every one of the 12 signs. I will see all of you guys next time. Enjoy your weekend. Have a very happy and healthy time, and I will see you guys all back here on Monday. Take care.